Hello everyone, I am Yash Mathur from the Media and PR Committee here at IMT Dubai, and we all welcome you to our new series, Our Dialogue With. Today we have Dr. Saade with us, who is an Associate Professor in the field of Finance and the Program Chairperson of Executive MBA. Thank you, sir, for joining us.
Thank you for hosting me.
Okay. So you have quite a lot of research and teaching experience. So what motivated you to get into the research and teaching field, and why you chose finance as a field of study?
You start with a very difficult question. I'm the curious type of person where I ask lots of questions of everything going on around me. And while pursuing my undergraduate degree, I discovered this in myself, and I started asking questions about the different modules and the knowledge I was acquiring, and I figured out that it's interesting, and why don't I find some processes that would allow me to find good solutions. And this is where I got interested in research in the first place. And of course the motivation to complete the PhD program came from there, and a PhD program ultimately will lead you into doing research, but also the teaching was there because I have a family history also of teachers, so this also gave me wings to fly, and I've seen this since early age. But again, it's the motivation that drives all this is the willingness to share knowledge and to help other people gain new knowledge and to work on their competency. So this is also a driver that I found in myself.
Okay. So you have quite a lot of work experience in Europe and in the Middle East region as well. So before joining IMT, you were in Lebanon, and before that in France. So what differences that you see in between Europe and the MENA region for teaching purposes? Like, how is the teaching methodology different in both these regions?
Very good question. Something we missed from the previous question, why finance? You probably asked why finance. At the time when I was graduating from my undergraduate degree, a major crisis hit the world. And in fact, it allowed me to also ask more questions about, what's the importance of finance in probably our everyday life or in the life of the country. And that was also a driver for me to go in that direction, to understand mostly how finance affects not only the daily life, but how it affects the overall environment, the economy in general. Okay, now what are the differences between various
the
teaching across various parts of the world? Well, in France, for example, I went to a school that gave a lot of importance to entrepreneurship. And even many students had the ability to start their own business. And they used to get help when it comes to nourishing their ideas, polishing them, and being part of incubators. So I would say in Europe they put more emphasis, and again it depends on the school that you attend, but they put a lot of emphasis on helping students to cultivate ideas and then to bring them to the world. In the Middle East region, this is now happening. So it's now the time period where universities are investing heavily. Not all of them, of course. There are always some universities that take the lead. And the universities I was working in, of course, took that lead, and they created entrepreneurship centers, and then they had also students, because it's an ecosystem where everybody will be able to flourish. So not only universities, but also students will be able to bring new ideas to the market, to create companies, to create new jobs. The economy would flourish, and so as the country in general, or the region. So I would say this is now happening in the Middle East and North Africa region, and hopefully we're going to see more of this.
So you have research experience, and one of the latest research that you found was on the foreign business activities, the foreignness of the VC syndicate and the IPO value. So can you tell us something about that?
Of course, one of my main area of expertise is initial public offerings, and I work mostly on trying to understand determinants of value when it comes to initial public offerings. And another area of expertise is venture capital research. So in this project, in fact, we married, me and two of my co-authors, We married these two perspectives, and then we try to understand what role, usually the venture capital firm can have in creating value for a company. Yeah. And this project, in fact, is mostly about looking at what foreign VCs bring to US initial public offerings, where a lot of things are known about what role US venture capital firms play in foreign companies, where they provide expertise, they have their know-how. The venture capital industry is quite developed in the US. So we know that whenever a US venture capital firm invests abroad, they usually bring all that expertise and history and know-how and help in monitoring and surrounding the company with lots of the good ideas, but also in managing the company. But we don't know what foreign VC firms bring to US IPOs. And this project was mainly about this, and we figured that foreign VC companies will usually, if they come to the US just for the simple reason of creating interest for their company, well, they don't succeed as well as they will face issues in the future, because this affects also their own reputation. But we found that those who are serious and usually come to US to really invest in startup companies, they will end up helping themselves, but also providing a lot of help for the US company through helping the company diversify their product offering, services offering abroad, allowing the company to discover new markets, to hit new perspectives that wouldn't otherwise be, in fact, accessible for a US company that lives in isolation in the US, or that tries to really go abroad without any connection abroad. So that connection part and this ability of understanding the local market, I'm talking about the foreign market, would only come from somebody who knows that market very well. And who else than the venture capital firm to provide or to act in such a role. So this was mainly that research project, and we found, of course, that the effect on value creation was quite substantial. So the value of the firm will increase a lot whenever you see foreign companies investing in US.
So in this region, entrepreneurship is booming right now. We see startups every day. In fact, some of the largest startups like Kareem is there, Souk is there. So how do you see VC firms will play a role, the foreign VC firms will play a role in the growth of all these companies here in this region? The starting up of new companies, and how this new untapped market which has been all this time. So how foreign VCs companies are going to help this?
When it comes to the VC market, usually venture capital firms will invest in risky ideas and risky projects. This is by definition. Now, what used to happen in the past year is that the banking system used to play that role, and in fact, what they used to do, they used to finance the least risky projects, so that they don't run the risk of losing a lot of money. And lots of ideas were then, just left behind or left on the side, and many of the ideas just remained at the idea stage, unfortunately. Now, a major player in that whole process is the government. And the government should set a clear framework where everybody knows, what the limits are and how we can operate. And many of the countries now are understanding this game, are understanding that usually if we allow small and medium businesses to grow, everybody will benefit at the end, because the highest number usually of companies is they advise in small and medium enterprises. So governments are starting to understand. They're starting to also give incentives to banks, to financial institutions, or to venture capital and private equity firms to come and invest. And usually a venture capital firm will need protection, will need to understand that there are boundaries within which they can operate, and they need to protect also themselves in a way. And the government will have to provide such help. Otherwise, it would be very difficult for a venture capital firm to come and invest in an unknown place. So governments are starting, universities are also taking the lead. We see a lot of incubators, for example, here in the UAE. Look just next door, and you'll see a lot of incubators are being set up and operating, and they have a lot of financing, and they're willing to listen to your ideas and then to hopefully help you, create a company from there. As as soon as they understand that there is some potential, they will be willing to guide you, and they will be willing to invest whatever is needed, either financially or in terms of their expertise. And I would say, the hidden side of venture capital side investment is that expertise, because we always associate them to the financing part, whereas they also provide more important role, which is their expertise, because they've already seen, many companies and many ideas started, so they know what the traps are, they know where you might fail, they know how to help, and they have that expertise of working with many different industries, which you alone as, an entrepreneur or someone who has an idea probably won't know. So, again, it's an ecosystem, as I said earlier. All the operators should have an active involvement, and all of the operators will have vested interest in, the ideas coming to life and becoming real companies one day.
Thank you.
All right, Oscar.
So, what is the scope of finance in the Middle Eastern region? So, you teach finance, so what do you see in the industry about the Middle Eastern region?
All right, so if we take it mostly from an economic perspective, and this is how I try to target that question, finance is the backbone of any country. A country without any good finance structure is, a country that is deemed to fail. Like any corporation that doesn't have a good financing structure and understanding of what finance is, also is a corporation or a company that is deemed to failure. And this can also happen at our own personal, individual level, where if I don't understand, the consequences of any decision I take, I won't be able, to meet my end of months correctly or take projects for the future the right way. So I would say that finance is the backbone, and if you don't have an understanding of the implications of any decisions, at whether this is at an individual level, at a more corporate level, or at some governmental level, you're not going to be able to succeed, unfortunately. Especially today in this very harsh economic environment that everybody's facing. When it comes to job creation, I think it's a sector that is providing constant or allowing people to find job, but again, it's not booming or stagnating, but it's there. There are a lot of jobs that are created across the region. I wouldn't say in one country as opposed to other, but in general, finance jobs are there. What the industry needs is mostly specialized people. So they're seeking people who have that expertise, and this is why we need to play that active role here, of course, in business schools and universities to provide, that raw material to the market, which hopefully the financial markets and financial institutions will use to also flourish. So I would say, we are in a tough economic situation, but again, jobs are there. One good thing about the finance sector is that, it's the thermometer of the economy. Whenever you feel that things are starting to move on that side or that front, you would also know that the economy is starting its recovery. And nowadays, it's the start. So I think we are hoping to have good days ahead of us when it comes to job creation, especially, and this is, I guess, what is important for any business to do.
So here at IMT Dubai, there are many programs, full-time, part-time. So you being the chairperson of the Executive MBA, so what differences do you see in between the 2-year MBA versus the Executive MBA?
Mm-hmm.
What differences are there in the course structure or the subjects that are taught?
Mm-hmm.
What are the major differences?
Of course. So the Executive MBA program is firstly targeted towards executive. So these are people who have a lot of experience in their area of expertise and who need that management profile or who want to marry their, for example, technical expertise with some managerial aspects. So they come and they enroll in our program, and hopefully within 14 to 16 months they will be able to earn all these competencies. So first, major differences, the major difference is, the mode of delivery. It is targeted towards people who are working individuals, so we are delivering during weekend. timing. The second difference is when it comes to the expertise that those people have. Usually, if we require around 1 or 2 years of experience for our normal graduate programs, this is where we're going to require at least 5 years of expertise. And one of the things I was doing is looking at, in fact, the profile of our students, many of which had more than 7 years. So around 80% had more than 7 years of expertise. More than 60% with more than 10 years of experience. And the whole, interaction in the classroom will become different. Why? Because these people will nourish, the discussion and the coursework and the projects from their own expertise. And this is what makes the difference at any graduate level. At the graduate level, you expect, in fact, the professor not to be a professor, but a facilitator. We are there, we are supervising the discussion, making sure that it runs smoothly within the boundaries of the subject area. And lots of, the input comes from the audience.
Yeah.
And they are the ones who run the class. So we tend to flip the classroom a lot in the case of Executive MBA program. Other differences, mainly than the form of delivery, is the timing of the program. An Executive MBA program usually has these 14 months or 16 months, as I already mentioned. We're in some cases able to squeeze the time into 14 months, where we also allow teaching not only on Thursday and Friday, but also on Saturday. And when it comes to the courses, these are usually the same courses, but again, the mode of delivery is what will make it more interesting for people. So if you're targeting a normal MBA versus an executive MBA program, know that it's the level at which we run the discussion that will make all that difference. And the theory part is going to be really minimal, because we will take the time needed to present the different theories, concepts, etc. But then working with these, tweaking them, analyzing will take more time, as opposed to a normal graduate program.
Thank you. So the conferences and seminars happen a lot in this region. So what conferences and the programs that you will suggest for the finance students here?
Well, there are lots of things going on in the UAE. You have conferences, fairs, job market fairs running every day. Every week you will find something new. My advice is that go hit the market and discover as much as you can within your area of expertise. And there are lots of conferences that are willing to sponsor students. Means you don't even have to pay their fees. Some will charge, some not. But for example, if you are in the marketing area, there are lots of things going on there. There are some corporations that also would want to identify potential employees, and they run some sort of master classes like the one we do also here. So fairs, conferences, according to your area of expertise. All you have to do is to go, and try to understand the various providers when it comes to fairs and conferences, and look, for example, at the World Trade Center, see their agenda and see what suits you best. And then sometimes, a presentation can really serve the purpose, so you can attend one of their presentations. Sometimes it's a discussion. Sometimes it's a meeting you do with one person, probably a university professor, an employer, or somebody who works in that industry would allow you to understand. And I would be able to benefit from all of these potential, opportunities available there to hopefully earn something. So my advice to students is not to limit themselves, except to their area of expertise, and then go and discover whatever is there and whatever is available.
So, what are some of the must-read books for finance?
A lot of, our library has a lot of books. It depends again on what you would like to read. If you would like to read something something that will allow you to look beyond your normal perspective, I would, for example, push my students to read things in behavioral finance, because, and this is also one of my areas of expertise. Behavioral finance will allow you to, to go beyond the normal understanding of finance.
Being the chairperson of Executive MBA, what message would you like to give out to the prospective students, those who want to join IMT Dubai?
First, I probably have to start saying that we are the only standalone business school that is accredited by the Ministry of Education in the UAE. Of course, we help our students in how we deliver the program. So we deliver our program at a very high level, where the Executive MBA students will be able to gain a lot from this experience of 14 to 16 months. And of course, from the presence of professors who have that expertise in running these programs and dealing with people at a very high level, running executive education trainings or management development programs in companies. So we understand the students' concerns, we know what they're seeking, we will be able to bridge the gap between what they already know and where they want to be in the future, and we try to provide, of course, that help. Our program delivery is also targeted towards executives, which means we are going to run our program on Thursdays from 5 p.m. till 10 p.m. and on Fridays from 2 p.m. till 10 p.m. And sometimes on Saturday. And this is a flexibility that we offer to these students who, have a very busy life, who have their family life, and they need also to get some new expertise. We also help them in terms of, placement, and in terms of creating connections and allowing them to mingle with each other and then to create some sort of group for the future. So these are some of the things we promise to offer. We have a beautiful campus, we have excellent facilities, 100% PhD faculty members, whether these are in-house or whether these are part-timers, so all are top-notch professors in their area of expertise that will definitely provide for their support.
So thank you, sir, for giving us your time. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.